Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were barely able to beat my Atlanta Falcons in week one, and now they get to fly to Houston to take on CJ Stroud and the Texans on Monday Night Football. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we are going to break down this game and provide our predictions at the very end of the video. So be sure to leave a comment and let us know who you think is going to win, and also hit that subscribe button to get notified when new videos come out. Ryan, Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to squeak out a victory in week one in Atlanta thanks to a young Wake who missed field goal, but also, too, just an epic Baker Mayfield drive, I think, too, as well. Great pass to Mecca Buka. It's not going to be fun having to go up against a Mecca Buka twice a year, especially if he keeps having multi-touchdown performances against us. But, hey,
Yeah.
maybe we should invest in the secondary a little bit more in the draft, but that's neither here nor there. They're going to be playing CJ Stroud and the Texans, who lost a close one in Los Angeles against Matt Stafford and the Rams here. This is going to be a very interesting matchup here because, especially to both of the offensive lines are not going to be at full capacity. Tristan Wirfs did not play against the Atlanta Falcons, and so they were having to do a kind of an alternate offensive line. And then I think that they would prefer to do as well. And then also, too, for the Houston Texans, center Jake Andrews was carted off with an ankle injury as well. And it did not look particularly great. So I'm going to assume that he's just going to be out for this. This video is coming out Monday afternoon. So a lot to monitor there, I think, when it comes to that overall status. But I think it's going to be very unique. I think both of these teams match up interestingly against one another. But Ryan, I want to throw it over to you here. What did you think of both of these teams' performances, and also what do you think each team has to do to be victorious in week two?
Yeah, I was a little underwhelmed with the Texans offense, especially on that final drive, giving up the fumble there. I thought was not a great. It just wasn't what I had expected this offense to look like. I know they made a lot of transitions on this offensive line. They gave up, I believe, 3 sacks there. So I think coming into this matchup, you look at this Buccaneers pass rush against that offensive line. I think that that's going to be the biggest thing here. Can this Texans offensive line, especially a banged up Texans offensive line, uh, handle this pass rush? Your Falcons don't have the greatest offensive line, but I felt like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really controlled the trenches on that side of the ball. They didn't really let your Falcons run for that much. And so I'm curious here, Nick Chubb, is he going to get a lot of carries? Is he going to be able to make that a respectable run game? Or is this just going to be another one of those games where the Bucs offensive line or defensive line just dominates their opponent's offensive line? So I think it's very important the Texans, this offensive line, protect CJ Stroud, establish a run game. And then on the flip side of that, I was impressed with this Texans defense. I thought they got after Matt Stafford pretty well here in week one. I think they can probably do the same and take advantage of a banged up Bucs offensive line and do that there. And so I think for the Texans, starts in the trenches. And then for the Buccaneers, can they actually kind of outpace with Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka and Bucky Irving and Rashad White? Can they actually just outpace the Texans in this game and just score enough points that it doesn't matter? And then you can put the Texans in situations where they have to drop back CJ Stroud and they have to let this pass rush pin their ears back. And so I don't think that will happen the other way around. Just because I think the Bucs are coming into this game with maybe a little bit more firepower. But we'll just kind of have to see as the game plays out. So I think this one really just comes down to whoever's going to win in the trenches.
Yeah, well, and I think that's gonna be the thing. Is I think the Bucks are gonna have a similar matchup as what they were up against in Atlanta, as the type of defense that they're going to be going up against. And I think even the Texans defense, personnel wise, is going to be better at each level. They're a little bit more balanced on the secondary part, in my opinion. We're very top heavy on our talent. Like we have AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates, yes, but then it's a pretty big drop off from
Yeah.
there. Well, if I go look at the secondary for, I mean, you got Derek Stingley Jr., you got Kalen Bullock, Kamari Lassard, Jalen Petrie as well. I feel like there's even somebody else that I'm missing too. When I look at that, but on top of that, too, their front seven I think is much more consistent. I think they have just a better defensive minded scheming coach in D'Amico Ryans than what we have. But it's something similar though, where you have the speed edge rushers with Will Anderson. You're gonna have Daniel Hunter. You got a lot of meat up the middle as well too. So I think it might actually be a very similar test, if not maybe even a little tougher test to what they faced in Atlanta, because Atlanta was very aggressive overall, but we struggled with containment, and Baker Mayfield was able to get away on a lot of third and longs and was able to pick up those first downs. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're going to have that same opportunity or going to have as good of a time. I think with their number two receiver matches with like a Mecca Egbuka versus a Kalen Bullock or versus Kamari
Yeah.
Lassiter. So we'll kind of have to wait and see how that ends up going. I think on the flip side though too, I think the Texans are going to have a very similar matchup overall versus what they face on the defensive side of the ball. Going to have a good front seven that they're going to have to manage. Going to have to manage that offensive line with the secondary that's not particularly great, but because the front seven is so dominant, it kind of mask a little bit of their inefficiencies because their front seven's able to get after them.
Yeah.
So to your point though, like in the running game department, they held the Falcons to just 69 rushing yards on 28 carries, and Michael Penix had 21 of those rushing yards, and many of that was like in the final seconds of the game of him trying to
Yeah.
gain first downs and move the ball down the field. And so Bijan Robinson only at 2 yards per carry. Tyler Algier only at 2.4 yards per carry. And so some of that I think also too is our offensive scheming and play calling is I think just is not good at all. And so I don't think I think it's very predictable. So the Texans are going to have to improve on that as well, but they're going to have that bell cow back in Nick Chubb, who is I think has that motor. It's going to be very interesting to see. But how do they block Vita Vea, who's just a massive human being? How are you going to manage
Yeah.
Yaya Diaby and company on that side of the ball? And so that I think is going to be the thing here as well. If I look at the skill position players, I would take Mike Evans over Nico Collins, especially too. I think just that consistent chemistry is going to be a little bit better with Baker Mayfield and how it's able to sling the ball. I think Emeka Egbuka had a great opening game here as well. If Christian Kirk's able to come back, which I don't believe he's going to be able to, is where else are they going to be able to find that number two production? Jaden Higgins, he did lead the team in receiving yards, but it was just 2 catches for 32 yards. Xavier Hutchinson had 2 catches for 30 yards. So there's a lot of different guys that they can go
Yeah.
to, yes, but they need the other explosive guys like how Emeka Egbuka was able to have an explosive game against the Atlanta Falcons. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup here. Both these teams are going up against similar matchups versus what they just went up against. And so I think for that reason, and I think also too, just kind of looking at how things are, I think the Bucs are still working out some things here. They're not going to have as I would say good of a time. I think being able to run the ball, even though that being said, they weren't able to run the ball super effectively against us. I do believe that they're also going to struggle with that as here as well. And so I do think the Texans are going to be able to pull this one out here at home on Monday Night Football. But I could see this one going either way. Both of these teams are
Yeah.
favored to win their division as of right now. So, and that's what you're going to get against division favorites.
Yeah. No, I think that this is a coin flip game. Kind of coming into predictions here, I'm gonna go with Houston. Uh I Houston. I just think this team offensively, I think they'll be able to score enough, and I think defensively they'll be able to cause enough fits for this Tampa Bay offense. Especially they don't have Chris Godwin. I know Emeka Egbuka had a really good game there against your Falcons, but you mentioned kind of what I was going to say. They have the depth on that secondary to go and uh,
Mm-hmm.
play those matchups and probably do that a little bit better than the Atlanta Falcons can do. So I think coming into this, especially being the home opener for the Texans, I'm going to go with them as well.
I like it. No, it's going to be a good game overall. I really do like these doubleheader Monday night games.
Yeah.
I kind of want it to be like this more often, and so,
Yeah.
but this is going to be a fun game. And then I think even too, then the next one too, the Chargers Raiders, is also going to be a good one as well. But this one
Yeah.
here, it's going to come down. I if I had to give an X factor, I think it's going to come down to the quarterback play. I would put C.J. Stroud and Baker Mayfield in that same tier of quarterback. I mean, depending on how people rank it, but like they're in that 6 to 10, maybe 6 to 12,
Yeah.
QBs in the league. Maybe 6 is a little high. maybe 8 to 14. Kind of in that range. Both are explosive, but there's still they do have that X factor overall that when they're on, they can take over a game. Baker Mayfield's definitely a little bit feistier, but I just think at home, CJ Stroud is going to be able to get it done, and Baker Mayfield and the Bucs are still going to try and figure out just this offense, trying to get into a rhythm as they're still a little banged up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead. Will it be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Will it be the Houston Texans? And other than that, we'll see you guys next time.